and Max is going to drive the rest of the stream.
Cool. I'm going to share this screen here. I am just really quick here. I'm on the Fate token Alcor. Here's what I was talking about. This is the highest bid currently offering. Somebody's offering to pay this amount of wax per token, while the current ask right now is this amount of wax per token. So you can see the difference between the ask and the bid here is like 600%. It's like ridiculously high. You could be both the highest ask and the lowest bid. The highest bid and lowest ask and have a margin of 600%. That's what I was talking about earlier. So like these little carrots are my orders, and then the other one that I just filled is just filled, and here's like my next orders coming in. But I'm trying to like play the like swing trade the spread, because the spread is so fucking massive. And the way I started doing this today was I looked at what was the current highest bid here, which is 0021, and then on the swap I was able to see if I switch this and then check for Fate token, the swap price is 0029. So let's say 003, right? While at the same time the market price, Fate, so 003 is kind of like where we're at. 0021. So this was like when I first got here, it was like 0.04 or something was the market price for on the swap. So I was able to swap my tokens, get a ton of wax, and then immediately jump back over to the market tab, set the wax I just got into limit orders, and buy back all the Fate token at a much lower price. And that's like what we were chatting about in the chat. That's doing like arbitrage manually, since we're exploiting a price difference between two markets just within the same like interface here. So you can exploit the price difference of the swap and of the trade book to do like arbitrage trading, which is basically like buying on one end and selling on, while simultaneously selling on the other one, and pocketing the difference between those two actions. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. Today I wanted to talk about the WAX blockchain, and I'm sure a lot of people know like this interface here, which is the WAX cloud wallet. And this is, I think this is how I got like my first intro into WAX 2, and I feel like a lot of people do and are familiar with this. So I'm sure by now a lot of people are already aware that once you first set up your WAX cloud wallet, if you want to start doing like multiple transactions or some more advanced stuff, you do need to go into this resource tab, and then oh sorry, that's not receive. I wanted to click on resource tab, and then you need to stake to these resources CPU, net, and RAM, depending on what you want to do with the wallet. And so that's what I wanted to like kind of talk about, how this is all like what you're actually doing when you're staking these tokens, what these resources do, and what that lets you do on the WAX blockchain. Because I feel like it's not very intuitive, and even in their white paper, I still had a harder time like understanding it. So I've learned a lot from doing, and would like to share now. So basically, as a user of WAX and a collector of NFTs, someone who buys and participates in drops or maybe plays blockchain games, the resources that we need are pretty much CPU and RAM. We really don't need net unless you need net is like for throughput of a contract balance. So if you're hosting smart contracts, then you need net stake. But since you're not hosting a smart contract, you're just interacting with them, which is like broadcasting transactions, or usually just broadcasting transactions, or sometimes making NFTs or burning NFTs or collecting NFTs or making orders on to buy or orders to sell NFTs on the aftermarket. All of those things require CPU and RAM. So the CPU resource is what lets you push a transaction. So the more of it that you have, the more transactions you can do in a 24-hour window, and also the more weight your transactions have, meaning that if two transactions hit the blockchain at the same time, the person who has a higher CPU stake takes a priority on getting their transaction signed first. That matters on drop day when you're trying to claim a drop. If I, with my, this is 300 WAX stake, if I am claiming the same drop that you're claiming with your wallet, but I have more stake than you in my CPU, and we do it at the same time, I'm gonna get the claim and you might miss it, even though we both submitted at the same time. That's what a bigger CPU stake would do for a WAX user who's just a collector like me and like most people. Like for most people's use case, that's what the big CPU helps with. That, and of course, making many subsequent transactions. So a lot of us have played games like Our Planet, where when you're crafting like 100 things back to back and signing 100 different transactions. Each time you sign a transaction, a small portion of the CPU that you have, like right now you can see I'm using like less than 1% of mine, but if once I make a transaction, a small amount of my CPU is then locked essentially for having made that transaction, and that becomes unlocked again after 24 hours. And it slowly becomes unlocked over those 24 hours. It's not like an all at once thing. It's more like once I made the transaction, now the amount of CPU becomes available again at a cooldown that will be 100% cooled down after 24 hours. The other thing that you need is RAM. RAM is used for holding NFTs in your wallet and for writing transactions to smart contracts that have information that needs to be stored, which sounds complicated, but really it just means anything that you're putting a user input in. That can be something like making an NFT sale on the Atomic Hub. When you do a sell NFT, you're broadcasting to the network like, sell, and you tell it which NFT and what price you want. You need RAM in your wallet in order to make a sell transaction and let that sit on the market. So every time you're on the Atomic Hub market and you're scrolling through all the like potential people who have their stuff listed for sale, each one of those sells requires a bit of RAM. When the sell is completed, like when somebody fills it, or if the user takes down the sell order, that RAM is freed up again. And you can, you're not like burning it, you're just committing it to writing that thing. Same thing goes with when you're minting an NFT. Minting an NFT requires RAM because you're creating data to be stored on the blockchain, and that data is stored in the form of the RAM of the minting wallet who mints that NFT. So even if it's not your collection, but you have privileges on your wallet to mint an NFT for a different collection, it will require the wallet that you're using's RAM to mint that NFT. And just like before, when the user burns an NFT, like for a blend or something, the RAM that was used to create the NFT in the first place becomes freed up again. And RAM, unlike network and CPU, RAM isn't staked, but RAM is rather purchased. And you purchase the RAM from an ongoing marketplace, which is run basically by the network algorithm itself. And RAM can be issued by the network, which is decided by the block producers. So now that I kind of covered how your wallet works as far as which resources you're staking and what those resources are going for when you're using the blockchain, I wanted to now go a little bit deeper into the WAX, the blockchain itself. So I was reading their white paper.
Really? Someone told me that when you list items on Atomic Hub for 0.01 wax, you actually lose more than you gain. Is that true?
You lose more than you gain in the sense that the amount of RAM that it costs to list that transaction is worth more than 0.01 wax. But when you take the transaction down, you free it up again. So it's not that it costs you something as much as it ties up the resources that you have. So it's not a free thing to do, but it's also not a costly thing. It's like a zero cost, but you have to have the resource committed in order to access that zero cost thing. So it's not wrong to say that. It's not a good idea, basically, if you're trying to just spam the market with thousands of like 0.001 transactions. You already need to have quite a bit of a RAM stake on the network in order to do that kind of stuff. And like I was saying before, you buy RAM from the network itself. And the way that RAM is distributed is basically the block producers who maintain the WAX blockchain, which is basically the WAX guilds. Well, I'll talk about that in just a second. But they can decide how much RAM is available to the like RAM market to be sold to users. So that what that means is that when you're buying RAM today, let's say you buy 50 WAX worth of RAM, it is possible that more RAM is made available and then RAM becomes cheaper. So
people here are saying you don't get all your RAM back when you sell stuff.
You might not, but you might.
Because 400 bytes is burned and you get 400 back. So you're burning some every time you list something, is what people are saying.
True. So, yeah, I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
So if you are listing for 0.01 wax, you might actually be burning more than you get back. How much does 400 bytes cost?
Right.
That's the math equation you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a math equation that will change because the cost of RAM is dynamic. based on supply and demand, basically. And the supply can be adjusted by the block producers behind the
That's
wax
what Project Journeyman is saying. As RAM gets more expensive, the threshold needed to profit on a sale goes up, and that's unless they can print more RAM, though, right? Like they can.
They can, yes. It's not like something that is a finite or a fixed amount. And there was in the past, I remember when EOS went live initially, like the first few weeks of like the EOS blockchain, which WAX is basically a fork of the code base, because WAX is an EOS.io blockchain, and EOS.io is like the protocol that runs EOS. It runs WAX, it runs Tezos, it runs like a bunch of EOS.io projects. Essentially, it's like the core code base, which, you know. So that's why, like on EOS, you're also staking CPU and RAM, and you're buying RAM and staking network and all that. But the market for the RAM when it first launched was very exploited, and a lot of like people would just use their EOS to buy RAM and then like try to sell it back to like people who legitimately needed it and like hike the prices and stuff. So the system has since evolved to not be like a gamifiable like marketplace as much as it used to be. But yeah, so I wouldn't like buy or sell RAM as like a way to benefit or profit. But yeah, just keep in mind RAM is a cost that isn't 100% recoverable, and also it like has a dynamic cost. Like the cost can change of what the RAM is. But essentially, when WAX went live, it was initially like incepted or like funded essentially by a token sale, like an ICO, and distributed with this like kind of a number breakdown here, where 1.85 billion tokens were initially distributed as ERC20 tokens, which is an Ethereum coin. Like any token that runs on Ethereum pretty much is ERC20. So those WAX tokens are redeemable still for WAXP today, and they are just automatically staked if you still have the ERC22 tokens. But that's 20 tokens, sorry, not 22. But basically the total supply of the tokens here is like 3.72 billion tokens that can exist, and 1.87 billion of that was the like initial sale, essentially. And then this, like you're seeing here, it says excluding inflation. So the WAX blockchain has a 5% inflation rate. Every year, 5% more WAXP tokens are created basically out of nothing, and they will forever be created is the plan. It's like a tail emission. So there's no limited supply to WAX. It's unlimited, but it's unlimited with the expected emission rate of about 5% annualized. Now that 5% annualized does not account for the burn mechanic built into the tokenomics as well. But I'll first talk about how the 5% is split, which is broken down here. So there's 21 block producers. The way the WAX blockchain works in general is it's a delegated proof of stake consensus algorithm. And what that means is there are basically nodes or like entities that run like hardware and computers that take turns adding blocks to the WAX blockchain. And basically, in order to be one of these people, you have to meet certain criteria of available uptime for your network, of like response time, because WAX blocks are added every half second. So it's a pretty like high intensity like requirement to be a block producer, to be able to answer those kinds of like tech demands. And then you also need WAX tokens that are basically that you stake in order to validate the blocks. So the blocks get validated by the token, what is it called? The WAX guild owner will add a block to the chain and sign that block with their signature, and their signature is basically backed by their staked token. And now it's not all their own token, but rather everybody who is staking WAXP can delegate the staked WAX to these block producers. So that means that me and you and all of us who are using our cloud wallet here, when we stake to our CPU and to our net and all of that stuff, we now are participating in staking, and that staking is helping to secure the blockchain through these block producers. So we need to basically delegate our stake to those block producers. And that happens, if you look here on staking rewards, that happens in the cloud wallet automatically through basically the cloud wallet is acting as a proxy for you. But if you are the custodian of your own WAX tokens, like in your Anchor wallet, for example, you can do this delegating yourself. If you're on the governance tab here, you can see this list is all of the current guilds, as well as, so the blue ones are the guilds. There's 21 of those, and then all the remaining ones are basically like the guilds that are on standby. And the reason that they exist is that if one of the existing guilds fails to answer the call for its block that it's adding to the chain, which happens, like I said, once every half second, if one of them doesn't answer, that block becomes skipped, and the next block will include its transactions. So the transactions just stay in the mempool essentially until the block is confirmed. But all of the blocks that are being assigned to these block producers are assigned randomly from a pool of all of the potential new blocks that are getting added to the chain, and 1% of the pool of all of these blocks is automatically assigned to the non-block producers. And basically, as long as they are able to keep up with that demand, and eventually if they get the highest stake, they can become full-on block producers. So the way that the top 20 are decided are by who has the most WAX tokens staked to them. And you and me and everybody who has staked their WAX tokens to their network resources, for doing so, is allowed to select up to 30 delegators to stake to. So actually the check marks are actually ones that I've selected from this list. Sorry, those aren't the block producers, but each one of these you can look up and see who's an actual block producer, who's a standby node, and you can see like the portion of all of the staked wax that this specific block producer has been delegated. So 4% of all of the wax is going through this delegator. This is definitely a block producer. So top of the list here, these are probably the top 21 will be like the actual producers. And I've nominated a bunch of these. Like, you'd have to do all your own research and decide who you want to nominate. But once you've selected your list, you would then just hit submit votes and sign the transaction for all your producers like that. I don't really need to because my current vote strength is at 100. But once you've submitted those votes, your vote strength will be at 100 like this, and you will be earning, basically you will be earning your 5% yield from the new tokens that's being distributed through the WAX blockchain that are being generated basically. And that comes right here. 2% of the 5% is coming to staking rewards. So that's where we're getting our return from, or which amounts to 40% of the 5% basically. Now,
really quick, BGAO wants to know, can we pool resources and become producers?
Yes, exactly right. So you can see some of these other block producers. Oh, right, it's on my Anchor wallet. Who are not in the top 20, are not in the top 21. You can, like, I could uncheck all these guys basically and allocate all of my stake to just this person here. And then if this person gets enough support to hold a stake of delegated WAX stake that is, a top 21 stake, they would become an active block producer and an active guild. So the list of active guilds is dynamic, and people who are running a guild and maybe are missing blocks or fucking up, would lose support theoretically from the community of people delegating to them, and therefore lose their status as a guild. And it's a constant thing. It's not like coming up to a vote every so often. This is like every block you can sign a new transaction. It kind of rolls into
this next question. This next question is, do you lose earn if your selected block producer is on standby? I'm using Blocks.io proxy.
You actually earn the reward proportional to your the delegated stake that you're delegating to the producer. You earn a percentage of your block producer's reward. So if you're delegating your stake to a producer who misses something or who doesn't get called often, you miss out on what you would potentially be able to earn had you delegated to a better block producer. So it does matter who you choose. And like setting a voter proxy like you're mentioning might be a good option if you don't want to do all this like deep dive stuff and choose block producers yourself. And like I said, you can vote
I
up to
still
30.
find I do a proxy and I lose 100% strength with my proxy. So I find even with my proxy, I have to refresh my proxy and then my strength goes back up to 100%.
I see. Okay,
But
I
even if you're on
haven't
proxy,
used
you
the
might
proxy.
want
I
to
always do it manually.
check because it tells you what your percentage. At least on Anchor, it does. Like it tells you your vote strength, and mine will be at like 88% after. It's like after a couple of months of not checking it too, but it does fall down.
So usually the vote strength here, once you've set your voters, you will automatically be at a vote strength of 100 like this. And then as, let me show you, they had a nice little graphic for this on their white paper, which I scrolled the wrong way on. There it is. So as you vote, you get up to 100. And then every time you refresh your vote, it pops back up to 100. This graph is showing like a person who's voted once got 100% of the like uptime, meaning that the rewards they're getting that they're owed, they get 100% of that. If their vote strength falls, that basically means their reward that they're getting for nominating the block producer also diminishes. So instead of getting like, let's say 1 wax, you would only get 0.75 wax by this point if you've let your vote strength fall this far. And then again, you can see the vote strength falling, and then here he resubmits his vote and he goes back up to 100. So basically it demonstrates that it encourages the WAX user base to be active in this governance nomination process, because inactivity results in losing your yield, basically return for staking. So it's not a super passive staking return.
Ninth123 says, I think WAX recommends voting once a week.
Yes, exactly. Once a week. I've done it like if you do it once a month, you maybe are dropping to like 80%, which isn't horrible, but it's not great. Like it's not 100% all the time. So once a week will definitely keep you at 100% constantly, which is nice. And then there's this other part that I think a lot of people overlook this, and I think it's really fascinating. And I'm a big fan of other projects that do this kind of stuff. 1% of the annual inflation, so 1% of the total inflation, meaning 20% of the 5% of the annual inflation, is used for worker proposal system, which you can participate in this. Anybody can. Where did I pull that up? It is here. The Wax Lab. It's labs.wax.io. You can go here. You can see the current proposals that are on. Like somebody here is proposing, they want 300,000 wax tokens in exchange for creating like a marketplace, something, whatever. They're proposing to do something, and they're asking for funding to do it. And anybody can do this, and the funding then comes from the blockchain reward. So the funding then comes from that 1% of the tail emission. So basically Wax can forever basically be paying for this type of community project stuff, which these ones are currently in review. This one's completed, so someone was awarded looks like 100,000 wax, and then you can read basically this. Anyone can submit these proposals. So if you have a really good idea for like a D-app or some kind of like improvement to the Wax blockchain, you just don't have the funding, you can come to this like Wax Labs, write up a proposal, suggest what budget you want, and then the community of Wax stakers can vote on these proposals and allocate the Wax money from the block reward to your project, and basically the Wax blockchain can pay to build your project for you. And so that's another side of the voting that you can do with staked resources. So if you're on here and you're like logged in right now, I think all the proposals are in review. Let's see if we see anything in voting. So unfortunately, there's nothing in voting that I can demonstrate this on. But if there is something actively in voting, all you need to do is sign in with the wallet that you have to stake in, and then you would be able to vote on this stuff as well. So help to decide what type of projects get funding from this Wax pool. So that is all part of the Wax distribution and how Wax continues to pay out its stakeholders over time. But there's also a part of the WAX tokenomics that is the potential deflationary percentage, and here it's 50%. That's the maximum potential. But what the deflation is referring to is a little easier to see when you're like on the atomic hub. Whenever you're like buying or selling something, you'll notice that there's the like tokenomics fee. I guess it's easier to see when you're selling something. Let's sell something here. Selling that. Let's see, list on market. So this is it right here, the tokenomics fee, 2%, blockchain specific fee. So this is on any market. You can't escape the tokenomics fee on Wax, and that 2% basically of any transaction for any NFT sold or like bought on Wax here, 2% of the value of that will be burned for the tokenomics fee. So the way that burn happens is that they remove the Wax P from circulation, and it goes through their, if we're looking here in the Wax wallet in their DeFi tab, there is a, I guess, hold on, that's jumping a little bit too far ahead.
Really quickly got another question.
Sure.
Does back tokens count for tokenomic fee? Like a wax back trade?
No, wax back trades are not gonna burn. Basically, trades in general don't incur tokenomics fees. It's purchases on like Atomic Hub basically, or on Nifty blocks, or like when you fill the, like, what's it called, the smart contract transaction of buy or sell something, then it has a token fee, but it has to be like a wax transaction pretty much, as far as I understand. But hold on, let me get into the WAXE thing. But that's, what was the last thing I was saying here? I got confused now.
You're about to jump into something you said is too deep.
Yeah.
Marcy, oh no, Marcy.
You little goon. Hold on. Okay, so
I was also
the burn mechanic, right? So basically, 2% of every of these transactions, basically of all the trading volume of NFT trading on Atomic Hub and stuff, 2% of all of that is effectively burned or removed from circulation. And I'll explain how it's removed in a second. But first, we have to go into this thing here, the WAXE. So WAXE is another aspect of the Wax token tokenomics, where WAXE is a ERC20 token. So again, it's a token that exists on the Ethereum blockchain, and it represents, one WAXE represents 1,000 WAXP tokens. So you can get WAXE just by having WAXP. Like I right now have 24 WAXP. I can say burn to WAXE. If I do my 24 here, anyway, can I not? 24, maybe I can't. Why won't you let me just fucking, there you go, 24. I don't know why maybe my number locks off. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so if I have 24 WAXP, I could turn this into 0.024 WAXE, say get WAXE, and then I would have to basically, when I say confirm, it would send my WAXP tokens to a smart contract that's a token bridge basically between the Wax blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain. It takes maybe like 10 minutes or so, and then I will have another transaction here that shows up and lets me claim the WAXE, which will require a signature from my like MetaMask wallet to then claim the WAXE, but then they will be on my Ethereum wallet. And basically,
how much is the gas fee for moving it over to Ether?
It depends on the current price of Ethereum gas. So
BDAO asks, is that rate fixed?
No, definitely not. So the Ethereum fees are based on they're based on the blockchain, like the Ethereum blockchain's current traffic. So I really like to use Ether gas station. ethergasstation.info, and it'll tell you kind of like the current snapshot of what to expect for fees on Ethereum right now. So it looks like about $4 or so for a fast transaction. That's not so bad. Like, it's been much more than that.
You meant the rate between WAXE and WAXG.
Yes, that's correct. The WAXP and WAXE rate is always fixed, 1,000 to 1, and vice versa. So one WAXE is always 1,000 WAXP, and one WAXP is always 0.0001 WAXE. And
Really?
if you view those two assets on the market, you can also spot quite a few arbitrage opportunities between them.
Really quickly,
Yeah.
I'm just going to simulate the Stream Raiders battle. So that's ready. Sure. I know people get upset if you're sitting around too long. So it's a quick interlude with Stream Raiders. Anybody watching on YouTube, if this is re-uploaded, sorry about this. Come join our live streams if you want to be able to play this.
Oh, yeah.
This will probably be our last Stream Raiders battle. Also like to say I'm trying this... it says Dr. Pepper mixed with cream soda, and it is delightful. I like it a little bit too much. I'm worried to try not to drink a lot of soda, but I feel like I could crush like 3 of these cans in a row.
Here we go.
And then we'll hop back into Max's Tech Talk. If anybody has any questions, it's been a lot of BDAO asking questions, but if anybody else has questions, we're happy to field them.
Yeah, so the rate between WAXE and WAXP is always constant like that. And you can even see, I feel like even right now,
What about WAXY and WAXG?
So WAXG is a completely different token still. WAXG is directly backed with Ethereum. So you can burn, I think it's like 100 WAXG burns into, I think, let me think, it's like 100 WAXG burns into like 0.05 Ethereum or something like that.
Is that a fixed rate though?
I don't think so, because the WAXG Ethereum pool is funded by the token burn on WAXP. So that's where that tokenomics comes back in again, where like the 2% of the token that's being burned, the way that burn works is basically the tokens, the WAXP is essentially turned into WAXE, and then the WAXE is traded against Ethereum through the Ethereum WAXE like liquidity pool, which I'll pull up here in a second when we.
Let's put screen up.
Okay, cool.
We on you.
Like, let me rewind really quick here. So you're able to get WAXE and WAXP. You're able to turn your WAXP to WAXE and back and forth, which we can do on here in the web wallet and the Ether bridge right here. So a really good use case for doing something like that is honestly sourcing WAXP, because getting WAXP tokens is kind of tricky. They're not on every exchange, and it's not super like easy to use something like Alcor to buy WAX, because where do you get anything else that trades on Alcor if you don't already have WAX? So the real issue now with the WAXP token would be, how do you get it on a open source trading like platform? How can we make it available to everybody? And the answer there is through DeFi. We're on the DeFi tab here. Through DeFi on the Ethereum blockchain, which is why they have the WAXE token as an Ethereum token, you can just trade directly into WAXE on something like Uniswap now. So even with like significant amounts of money, like $100,000 or so, you could still buy like 496,000 WAX tokens with only like a 1.98% slippage, which is not, it's not great, but for how difficult WAX is to source and being able to get almost $500,000 for $100,000, this is probably a better bet than any exchange out there at the moment, unless you're using an over-the-counter service who's actually sourcing something for you, and at that point you're probably buying more than $100,000 worth. So it's a really good way like to make this available to because at more reasonable prices like $10,000 you can actually buy almost one to like the price is almost unaffected, almost. Like we're getting for $10,000 we're getting like $9,940-ish worth of WAX. So we're only losing like $60 in fees and like slippage and stuff on a $10,000 purchase, and that's possible without an exchange account, without a permission from some jurisdiction that you might be operating in that says you can't trade wax. This is all just done directly from inside your wallet. So in order for this to be even possible, there must be quite a bit of liquidity available in this pool. And here I pulled up the address, the contract address for the WAX core dev team. And here you can actually see that they own about $12 million of that liquidity pool. So they are supplying a lot of liquidity to the pool, but not all of it. So if we're on Uniswap here, I just want to look at the pool. So we know that they, I'm curious how much the community is supplying versus how much the development team is supplying. So I just clicked on V2 Analytics on the top right, and I'm going to go to pairs, and I'm going to look for WAXE and Ethereum. So this pair is worth about $16 million total, 12 of which are supplied by the dev team. So, you know, $4 million worth of liquidity is being supplied by the community of you know, people who believe in the project and want to supply this liquidity. And the reason why people might want to do that is because, again, it's in the best interest of the WAX coin to be available to anyone who wants to trade it through the open market. And so to incentivize participation in this liquidity pool, the WAX core dev team, part of the distribution model is they allow you to, once you've supplied liquidity, like you can see here, my share of the Uniswap WAXE pool I have, and I've staked it. Then once you've added liquidity to the pool, you can take the resulting tokens and stake them here, and that gives you then access to the distribution rewards pool, which is that 2% that we were talking about earlier, the 2% tokenomics fee from the WAX blockchain being turned into Ethereum, and then that Ethereum being backed behind a token called WAXG, and then that WAXG token is distributed to everybody who's participating in this liquidity pool process. So you can see, and that happens once a month, and you can see right here, it says the current epoch, which is the 15th total epoch since the start of this program, basically. It ends here in 16 hours, and then once the next one starts, it'll run for another 30 days. So they're always like a full month, basically. So everybody who has been contributing liquidity to this Uniswap pool, the liquidity. So I mean, in my example, I was showing US dollars to WAX, but if you look here, the path it takes, you can see it's going tethered to Ethereum, and then Ethereum to WAXE. So it is still going through that Ethereum WAXE pool. That's this one right there, the last one there. And then that's how you end up. So like you can see, I'm still, ultimately, it's like using the Ethereum pool. But anybody who was participating in this pool, so anyone who's part of the $16 million of liquidity available for the rest of the world to trade against, and who has been part of the pool for the full epoch, for the full 30 days, will now be getting a portion of the rewards. So for me, that's 0.11% of the current block rewards, of the current distribution rewards. So what that amounts to is basically all of the trading volume that happened in the last month on like Atomic Hub. If we look at this, I'm just gonna scroll down and look in like 1 month. So each one of these days, we're looking, that's like 400,000, 300,000, 300,000, like each day, right? So that's potentially millions of dollars. So 2% of all of this money is going into the distribution pool, and then 0.11% of all of that is going to me in the form of WAXD. And then here you can see for my last month, I received 94 WAXG tokens for having already participated last month. It's currently worth, because WAXG tokens are backed by Ethereum, it's worth this amount of Ethereum, which is like $140 or something right now. And if I want to, I can claim this reward right now, which would cost me a transaction fee of, looks like $29-ish, which I'm not about to pay to withdraw $150. So instead, I'm just waiting for this next epoch's rewards to come, and these will just keep adding up until I claim them, just like, our planet rewards or something else. Anyway, once I've my WAXG claimed, once I sign that transaction, though, I then have the WAXG in my wallet, and that gives me the option to vote on the DeFi governance. So this is where you can vote on who becomes a block producer. So there needs to be a WAXG vote, as well as the support of the delegated stake. Having delegated stake support alone does not make you an active block producer. You also need to have like a voting share from people who hold WAXG tokens. And again, the only way to get WAXG tokens is to basically hold WAXP, turn it into WAXE, pair it with Ethereum, and then commit the paired amount of Ethereum and WAXE into a liquidity pool for at minimum a full epoch, so a minimum of full 30 days. And in exchange for that 30 days, you receive a portion of WAXG. And then if you don't want to participate in governance, you can just go here, hit burn WAXP, and that would then basically deposit the back Ethereum into your wallet. So you'd lose your WAXG tokens. My 94 WAXG would be gone, but I would receive 0.041 Ethereum. So in a nutshell, that is the distribution model of WAX as blockchain, as like a blockchain asset, where so it's like you can stake the WAXP token, you get 5%. Basically, there's a 5% inflation rate that's distributed to stakers. You don't necessarily get 5% exactly. It depends on the performance of the delegated block producers who you've elected to back, as well as on the weight of your vote. So how often you've renewed your votes, making sure that your voting strength stays up. And there's a few factors in all of that. But 5% of the total value of the blockchain gets added to the emissions rate every year. 2% of the volume traded on NFT volume traded on the blockchain gets removed from the circulation supply and turned into Ethereum. And that gets backed to a WAXG token and distributed to people supplying the liquidity to the open market through the DeFi space on Uniswap. It's possible that they'll open this type of liquidity. This is known as liquidity mining, where I'm supplying liquidity and using the liquidity to mine another token currency. It's possible that they'll open this type of liquidity mining up to other liquidity pools in the future. For example, if like there was a more popular exchange than Uniswap on the rise, it's possible they could introduce a liquidity mining pool for that to help to distribute the rewards and further diversify the availability of WAXE on the DeFi space. All that stuff is just still in the air, but basically the burned tokens get turned into Ethereum, the Ethereum gets turned into WAXG, and the WAXG gets distributed to the people who supply the liquidity to the open market. And that is also the way that token, that WAXG, is also what you need in order to have influence over the governance on-chain for block producers.
BDAO wants to know, can you turn it back to WAXP? And you can sell WAXG, right? You can
sell WAXG, so there's probably
you couldn't sell it directly for WAXP, but you could turn it into Ether and then bridge that over to WAX.
Yeah, so WAXG is basically Ethereum. You can either use it to vote, or you can just turn it back into straight up Ethereum. You can't turn it directly into WAXP, so that you would have to go WAXG to Ethereum, Ethereum to WAXE, WAXE to WAXP. Or you could probably do a WAXG to WAXE trade directly, if that's...
You could also do probably WAXG to USDT and then bridge that over. There's a bunch of options to get WAX these days.
Yeah, there's definitely... So WAXG is not often traded, I feel like. That's basically... WAXG is a utility token. I imagine, though, because it is backed with Ethereum, but it also has the utility of giving you a vote on the network, I imagine you could sell it for a premium over the value of its Ethereum backing. But I haven't tried. So
Seeker asks, is WAXE still valued the same as Ether in US dollars?
So WAXE is actually backed by WAXP. So basically WAXE should be worth 1,000 times what WAXP is worth. So if WAXP is worth 20 cents, you should expect WAXE to be selling for about $200 a coin, because they are representations of each other. Like WAXE is just WAXP that's been removed from the WAXP blockchain and locked into this smart contract, from which it is then distributed on the Ethereum blockchain as this WAXE token at a rate of 1,000 to 1. So
also,
that's what I meant
BGAO was
earlier.
asking about Binance earlier. I didn't answer that question, but it's basically like, why would you do this instead of Binance? And I think you kind of already answered that. This is how you participate in the governance. This isn't necessarily the way you should get Wax if you're trying to get a small amount of Wax, but this is a option to people on the Wax network.
Yeah, so Binance, as far as I've seen, like they don't offer WAXP directly unless you have an account on like their actual website. You can't do it through their like decentralized exchange platform, because Wax is not a BNB sub token. Like there is no like you could also potentially in the future there could be like a WAXB token, which is just like WAXE is Wax on Ethereum. There could eventually be a WAXB, which could
Wax
be
Binance.
Wax on the BNB chain. That's not a thing yet, but that's not to say that can't happen. It definitely can happen. That's basically what they've done with WAXE and Ethereum. It's all it is a token bridge between two blockchains that let you, lock one of them up on one blockchain to issue them on another blockchain. The only like confusion that people might sometimes face is that the ratio isn't 1-to-1, but rather 1,000-to-1. And then another thing I wanted to dive in really quick here is their roadmap on the WAX website. They still have quite a few cool things that they're working on. Right now, there's a DeFi competition, I think, that was trying to bring some other like
DeFi completion.
They were doing like some stuff to bring DeFi projects over to WAX. So they're trying to, I guess that hasn't been fully like realized yet. Then they're updating their cloud wallet. I think they're doing, mobile wallet's its own thing. So I'm curious what this one is.
Wait, what did that say? Cloud Wallet 3D?
3.0.
Oh, 3.0. I was like, what is going on there?
My guess is it's going to make it more
Cloud
possible. I'm guessing you're going to be able to like easily add like, what are you doing, Paul? You're going to be easily able to add like other tokens into your Wax cloud wallet and stuff like that. I'm guessing they're doing like a facelift or something.
I bet the Wax mobile is going to be like an app like in the app store and like the iPhone and stuff. That would be super cool if it wasn't just a website and you actually had your own like Wax cloud wallet app. I think that would be huge for Wax to onboard a bunch of people.
Yeah, I'm definitely very, very interested in that. They also have several like other things if you follow their GitHub, where they're talking about creating potentially like immutable assets that are only visible to the owner of the NFT, stuff like that, where like you could have like potentially an NFT whose content is invisible to anybody who doesn't actually own it, which is, there's just a lot of stuff that they were still like, it's still like building out here. But yeah, the how to participate here, I really liked this. Somebody wrote up a let's see, I have it pulled up. Did I?
MetaMask is only for Ether stuff, right?
No, that's not true. You can actually, if you're on MetaMask.
BDAO says I want wallet on MetaMask, so I wonder if you could get a Wax wallet on MetaMask somehow.
Yeah, so you can use any of these different blockchains on MetaMask, and then you can even add your own. Like,
so I mean, it's really just Polygon then.
Yeah, Polygon's a good one.
Those are all test
networks. You can add like Harmony as well. Like you can definitely add other ones. You just have to add.
So maybe eventually you will be able to use Wax stuff on this wallet, but as of now, I don't know of a way that you can use Wax through MetaMask. Yeah. That would be a cool bridge.
Definitely. There's also stuff in the in the GitHub that they're showing about like NFT bridges between Ethereum and other networks.
That's gonna be fucking wild.
Where you'd be able to basically, you'll be able to, similarly how you can send your WAXP into WAXE tokens, you in the future potentially will be able to take your Wax NFTs, put them into like a smart contract that then issues them as NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. You could trade them on Ethereum on OpenSea or something. The buyer could then take it from OpenSea, engage the smart contract, and basically unlock the NFT again on the Wax blockchain, but now in their respective wallet. So like a way to move assets from one blockchain to another and have them trade on either. more reasonably, I would assume I would want to move my NFTs off of Ethereum onto Wax, so that I could trade them much easier. And then once they're, once I'm done trading, you can always unlock them again on Ethereum, because it's pretty pricey to trade stuff like Bored Apes. Cost me like $40 just to send someone. But if you could pay the same $40 to turn it into a like NFT on Wax and then be able to trade it back and forth all day, yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, I don't want to surf through GitHub. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much the quick and dirty overview of like Wax's incredibly complicated tokenomic structure. But
it's really functional. I like how easily you can use
functional.
it without really knowing how this stuff works. It's just like, make sure you got some CPU sicked, slap some RAM in that bad boy, and you're good to collect NFTs. But then if you want to actually like participate in the economy and stuff, there is a lot going on under the hood.
There's a lot. You can participate by voting for block producers, and you're rewarded for doing that stuff too. Which also, let me just, while we're here, if you do use this web cloud wallet, you are and you stake to your resources, you'll notice in staking rewards, you'll have like a claim earnings here, for example, and when you hit this and sign it, it refreshes down to 0, and this claimed balance will be added into your staked balance. It won't ever hit your wallet. So if you're ever confused where it went, it'll like take a few days or sometimes hours or whatever to hit this balance, and it'll update. But there is also a Genesis mining reward that you get for staking that this wallet does not claim. So really quick, let's just claim that as well. So if you go to blocks.io, OKS.io. Whoops, did I? Blocks. Oh, there we go. And then you change from EOS with a little down caret here to the Wax blockchain. Also, by the way, these are all EOS IO blockchains. Like these all run on the same kind of like core code essentially, but with slight differences. They don't all work exactly the same. It's just the same like core base. They're all like forks from the same code base, kind of like how Litecoin is a fork of Bitcoin. Okay, anyway, so you're on Wax. You can go up here to log in, choose your cloud wallet, and sign the transaction to log in. And now when you go to the wallet tab here and you go to claim GBM reward, you saw that a second ago I claimed the 0.4 and that's back to 0, but I also have my Genesis reward here. And you can see that I can't claim my other one that I had claimed a second ago because the wallet let me do that, but claim Genesis is still available. So as a cloud wallet user, don't forget you are also earning Genesis block rewards, and you need to claim those manually.
Seeker has a question about that. Seeker says, does the Genesis reward value increase as your staked value increases, like the regular voting rewards?
Yeah, it does. It's similar to the regular voting rewards.
So
the more you have staked, the more you get in your Genesis rewards as well.
And BDAO asked, how much do I need to stake so I can earn 1 wax per day? I think I can field that. That means you need to make 365 wax a year at 5%. That would be 7,300 wax staked. That would give you 5% of that is 365, which is 1 wax a day.
Yeah, baby.
Assuming you keep your vote strength at 100%.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
I think it's something more like 4.8%. So, like, those numbers are going to be a little off, but somewhere around, I'd say if you stake 8,000 wax, you can get 1 wax a day back.
Yeah, and then if you follow the Wax Discord, they also announce like I'm waiting for like the next one they're announcing, but they will announce like the tokenomics burn, like how many wax were removed from circulation during the last epoch, this being epoch 15. So in like the next 24 hours, they'll probably post about the distribution of wax rewards. And over the I've been watching it for months, and more wax is usually burned in a month than is generated through the emissions. So wax is at the current like rate that it's going, it's kind of deflationary. Like, despite the fact that there is a no maximum supply to the token itself, and that there's despite all that, and that there's a tail emissions, despite that, the token supply is actually more or less shrinking. Like we can see here, The maximum supply, 46 billion, is definitely significantly higher than it was when in their white paper that we were looking at, but you can see that it's actually down. There's only the circulating supply on the WAX blockchain is only 3.7 billion here, and that's because most of this stuff is like either in WAXE on the Ethereum blockchain still, and then like tail emissions, and then max supply is also taking into the account potentially stuff. Some of these tokens have already been burned out of circulation. But yeah, and you can see how you stack up here on the WAX leaderboard. You can be
pretty good.
You can be number one if you have more than 1.7 billion WAX. But obviously that's the EOS.stake. This is the initial IPO address to genesis.wax. This is also not like a person. This is all dev fund stuff. Wax of Binance. Damn, Binance is like the 4th biggest holder of WAX.
I wonder what WAX Cold Trees is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but they got more than Binance by like a lot.
Like almost too much, 2x.
Bitrex is also stacking WAX pretty good. 93 million. Dang. Yeah, it's some good.
Qcoin look bad. Where's Qcoin?
Yeah, where's Qcoin? I'm looking for them. They're like KYC to the moon, right? KYC.
I think it's KYC. I think it's like it is something to the moon though.
I guess they move it to a separate address. It's not the deposit address since it's not showing up.
It's got to be one of those top ones though.
It's got to be. Yeah, either way. But yeah, so keep track of that. You can claim your Genesis balance here, and you should do that kind of every now and then. And then here you can also see you can see your voting preferences and such, like your voting strength.
I think we're wrapping up here though. So Token Girl said they need to go to sleep. Not a bad time to wrap up. And is there any final stuff you wanted to say? I was going to raid over to Menace Tech.
I think just there's a lot, like we were saying a second ago, like there's a lot going on with this token and with the tokenomics behind the WAX blockchain. And it's really cool that you don't really have to know any of it to use it. Like it works, without you having to understand any of this stuff. But it is really cool to actually understand a little bit deeper how it works. And I feel like it gives you Paul's making fun of me. It gives you like an ability to like understand where, like, how did this stuff gets distributed and why it's like accessible or not accessible, where the bottlenecks are potentially, and all that stuff. And I don't know, I'm a big fan of WAX. So
if you have questions, hit us up. We have a tokenomics channel in our Discord, and if you put it there, we'll see it. And the tokenomics is kind of like our tech talk channel. We had a tech talk and a tokenomics, but it's like the same information pretty much. So if you have any questions for next week, we're going to try to do these every week. And if you have any questions,
oh my god, yes,
this topic or other topics, either on WAX or even outside of WAX, Max does a lot of stuff on other.
I don't know if anyone's seeing. Is my screen still up?
No, I can pull back up.
Dude, they added WAX DAI, WAX USDC. Oh my god, they're adding wrapped Bitcoin. Oh, fuck yeah, dude. This is a big deal. Damn, yo. BUSD, so this is a Binance chain token.
Do you think WAX wrapped Ether will trade on fucking OpenSea?
Dude, I think WAX trade. I don't know about OpenSea, but Alcor, I think, yes.
I don't see. I mean, WAX. That's like how the wrap. That's how they do wrapped Ether for like the other stuff on OpenSea, though, right?
Yeah, but this is WAX wrap. The other stuff is wrapped in Polygon.
Don't they have a couple different blockchains you can wrap stuff on? And
yeah. Oh, I guess yeah. I guess they could maybe add.
Yeah,
they could add.
Let's fucking
WAX
go
into OpenSea and let you pay with WAX wrapped Ethereum. This is a huge deal. I did not notice this until right now. So, well, that's fucking awesome. By the way, this is on the token bridge on the WAX Cloud wallet. If you scroll down below where you can turn your WAX to WAXE, they have a bridge for other tokens. So I could literally take my wrapped Bitcoin. Oh, I have to use wrapped Ethereum already. Damn, that's dope. I could turn this deposit to wax basically. So let's see if I could do this with like USDC I actually have. So I could totally do like $1,000 and deposit it to wax. 17 bones. Okay, maybe I'd do more than $1,000 if I was gonna do that. But that's super cool. I'm gonna have my eye out on Alcor for these assets, because what happened last time when Wax Tether got added to Alcor, like people didn't know what the hell they were looking at, and let's see if I'm looking at
trading
Alcor.
for way less than it should have.
It traded for like nothing. You could buy it for like, yeah. Let's see here. When we zoomed out, it was trading like stupid low for a second too, like 0.5, like 5 cents for wax or something. And this was when it was like 20 cents a unit. So if I see these things get added to Alcor, or if you see them as well, just it's good to understand that they are potentially legitimately the tokens from the token bridge, and this is the next phase of the Wax's of the Wax what's this called, roadmap.
But as always, do your own research, and this is not financial advice.
Exactly. But what this suggests to me is that you will in the future be able to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and literally any other token that's been wrapped into Wax on exchanges like Alcor. That's a big deal, since you'll be able to trade those assets using the token fee structure of Wax. Like I'll be able to trade my wrapped Bitcoin for wrapped Ethereum and pay the token, like pay the fee for those trades using my staked CPU and as Wax. Once I'm done doing all my trades, I'll be able to unwrap the tokens through that bridge and deposit them in their respective wallets. This is a huge deal. Not financial advice, but I'm really excited that I just saw that.
All right, we're raiding over to Menace Tech. Have a good night, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. for poker and game night.
See you.